All right. So I decided to do a video here as I take a walk to an area that I've really enjoyed going to, and maybe getting some coffee, reading a book, whatever the case. And this is actually the boardwalk. So to my right, to your left, is the ocean. You might be able to see kind of way over there. It's a lot of the ocean front is obscured by loading docks. And I've talked to some of the locals who have said that they don't like it that way. And if they had the choice of changing that, they would. But and it's really unfortunate, but they can't because of the corporate control, of course. And it's unfortunate because even the big shipping companies like Maersk and the like, they're not delivering the majority of those products to Portugal, or excuse me, to Lisbon. They're bringing them through Lisbon to their distribution centers. So it's really just a matter of them not wanting to make the transition. But I digress. Had a good day today. Had a nice lunch, in particular, with two tech people. Most of the people on this program are actually in tech. And today I had lunch with a woman named Sean, who is just slightly older than I think she's probably 5 years-ish younger than my mom. I don't know, but my mom's generation. And she works for Accenture. And she's very interested in blockchain technology. And she knows that I'm super into it. So we've been talking a lot about it. I've been helping her to buy cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and EOS, and these things. And then another guy, also named Sean, different spelling, and he is maybe 5, at most 10 years older than me. And he works for a company called Pagely, and he's also very into crypto and blockchain, which are not the same necessarily, but basically all the cryptocurrencies represent different blockchain networks. And we got onto the subject of kind of like the blockchain why. Why are we so into it? And it turns out that Sean was interested in understanding how we thought Accenture might be able to embrace and participate in kind of the blockchain crypto movement. And Sean and I are both coming at this stuff from an entrepreneur perspective and approach. So Sean's been part of a number of different startups, and we both basically got into like war stories about situations where we had felt that the opportunities were for success were not as the path to success was not as clear and fair as and as I say that, life's not fair, of course, but that with greater centralized control by large corporations, it's very difficult to for the startups to rise up. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there are fewer startups, fewer new businesses started in the United States now than in decades, and very, very few make it. And I've witnessed this myself. Even Turnstile almost didn't make it. We had achieved profitability within 2 months of launching, which is pretty unheard of. The only reason we were able to do that is because of pre-sales, just a really badass marketing launch effort by my team and I, by me and my team, and then in the 3rd month, a brand new building management company that had purchased the large plaza, the compound, the commercial office buildings in which our plaza was located. It's like a retail plaza in Kendall Square, Cambridge. They started a huge construction project, which was absolutely designed to basically put us out of business. And lo and behold, 3 of those businesses in the plaza, maybe of 9 or 10, ended up going down or switching hands, switching ownership out of desperation. And these are families, right? These are individuals. These are not wealthy people. Let's go across. And the only reason we were able to make it is because we doubled down. We went to our investors and we said, if you guys don't double your investment and let us open a new location twice the size to make up for the kind of foregone revenue, we're not going to be able to achieve the returns that you would hope to achieve. And we're very lucky that they were able to do that. Props to my to one of my finance. Other side. There you go. Yeah. And then Sean himself had a situation where he had presented business plan to as a part of a founding group of entrepreneurs. He had presented his business plan to some VCs, and they took it and used it as research and ended up going with one of their competitors. And this is something that is kind of just par for the course in venture capital. No VCs will sign non-disclosure agreements. Even as I say this, if there are any people that are part of VCs watching this, they'll say, "Oh, that's just how it is," and it is. And the point is, we don't want it to be that way. So if you think about how does blockchain solve this, well, it starts with all of these blockchain projects start with a white paper, which is basically the detail of the incentive structures, basically the reward system for how the participants in the network will be compensated for participating in the network, for productively participating in the network. And mining is the most basic activity that they can do in the network. That's basically providing the computers that store the data and compute the software. Bitcoin is the most basic form of that. It's one of the most basic ones, and that's just transaction software. And but it can be any kind of software, as I've mentioned before. It can be Facebook. It can be anything. It can be Twitter. There actually is a blockchain Twitter out there. There's a blockchain pretty much everything at this point, which you wouldn't know. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And Sean and I both see blockchain as a solution for most of the world's problems. I had we also talked about how, this is the point that I made that is worth mentioning again. I don't think that I would necessarily be as altruistic now if I didn't know about blockchain, if I hadn't researched it and just had the good fortune to have exited Turnstile and gotten a little bit of money to put into Bitcoin, which gave me an incentive to do the research at the perfect time, like right before that spike, that last one, back in January 2018 of this year. And but now that I see it as a solution to what are pretty fundamental problems with the current corporate power structure, as just defined legally by the legal definition of a corporation. I don't blame anybody for trying to make money. You got to do what you got to do. And given that I've experienced just so many unscrupulous bastards, people in power positions flexing their power to take advantage and for their own well-being. I think I might even have ended up that way myself, to be honest. And it's just because I have this out, because I see the alternative, and I actually see it as a more efficient, a fairer system. It's still a very capitalist system, but instead of having the decision makers up at the top, separate from customers and employees, the customers and the employees are part of the group of people who that's fun. Check this out. That's Lisbon for you. It's nice to be here. People are very it's a very activist kind of place. It's refreshing, revolutionary. I don't think they understand what the solution is really, because but maybe they do. There's some blockchain people here, but I actually wrote an article which I published on Medium.com called corporate incentives are ruining the world, and blockchain incentives will save it. And that sounds very dramatic. It's actually less dramatic than the first title, which was Psychopaths, Saints, and Slaves. Point being that, once you have a company that is large and public, and which sells a product that may not be necessarily the best product relative to alternatives being provided by the small incumbents, the small newer startups. That technology is, they have all the resources that they need to continue moving forward, and